It is the 18th day of June. The year is 2025. Today being a Wednesday morning. Welcome to the program. I would love to say good morning, but I know that at the moment, some may ask what's so good about the morning because, well, it's a sad state of affairs right here in the country and specifically the capital of Nairobi. If yesterday's scenes are anything to go by, I mean, clearly there's a deteriorating relationship between law enforcement and the citizens, and I think it's a really worrying trend. I don't know what my colleagues think about what happened yesterday. We clearly saw someone being shot in broad daylight, someone who was not retaliating, someone who had no weapon on him. I don't know, Victor, Mike, Regina, is this something that we should be worried about, especially between the rift that is clearly there between the police and the people right now? Just briefly, maybe. Victor.
Good morning again. It's first of all, it's 17th day of June. Now,
it's 18th.
It's actually 18th, right?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon. Now, last week, let me just pick it from where we left. Last week, we had a discussion here with NCIC Chair, Reverend Kobia, and I asked a very simple question, which I've kept on asking almost the entire week until now. And I asked about the gap that is widening between the police officers, the law enforcement officers, and the civilians. And he said that there is trust deficit. There is a trust deficit. There is no question about that. And that was actually confirmed yesterday. Now, let's look at it this way. In any sense of self-defense, first of all, when you have got a close protection, you attack someone who is charging at you, right?
True.
But when you surrender and you're walking away from the threat, then you don't become a threat to anybody or to anything. Police officers, let's just face it, are mandated to use their firearms in certain instances to protect lives and to protect property. And if their lives are in danger, in imminent, that is a keyword, imminent danger, the question is, was that police officer's life in imminent danger? The gentleman had just masks. And actually he was walking away as he was ordered to do by the said police officer. Was he a threat? Now that is a big question I want to ask even the police bosses watching at this point. Was he a threat to the two police officers who were armed? I think we can do better as a nation. We need to do better. There is no question about that.
Questions abound because the very people who are charged with protecting lives and property are the very people that are charging against Kenyans. The biggest mistake that man did was to start. You know, there's a way you can be accosted by police during a riot and you be confused. So you don't know whether to run or whether to just stay where you are. The biggest mistake that man did was to just stand there, masks at hand, and then walk away only to get a shot at the back of his head. The question here is, why?
Why? But then again, even before Regina comes in, let's just face it. Whatever happened yesterday in the city was completely new to many people. It was completely new. We don't know whether those people were police officers in civilian clothes or they were hired goons. We have no idea who those people were. But the fact that they were getting the protection from the police officers, and some of them were captured in cameras saying, we are on the side of the police. What does that statement tell you? We are on the side of the
police.
So which means they're civilians. All right? And the muggings, the lootings, daytime robbery with violence, you know, some old man who was captured on camera. I think he only had, what, that?
He had files.
Files, papers, and
he was wrestled down.
Nobody knows where he was headed. And it was just chaos. It's... Regina, nimalize your statement.
You know, when you say there are more questions than answers, but at least we have some answers. So yesterday, Douglas Kanja ordered the arrest of the said officer who was captured on live camera shooting down an unarmed man in the CBD. So we know that that man is a police officer. The irony is, the reason why demonstrators were on the streets yesterday was protesting police brutality.
Yes.
Only for the police, you know, to make do with their brutality on live television, so to speak.
On an armed
civilian.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of talk from the political class, some who said that the demonstrators had, you know, provoked the police. But my question is, from a governance and leadership point of view, is that the right thing to say when Kenyans are mourning and very anxious about their relationship as Kenyans, as civilians, with the police or the security apparatus? That is one. Secondly, what does the law say when it comes to picketing? Thirdly, when does human life have a price tag? Because we saw goons calling out their masters on live recordings, saying, tuko hapa, tunalinda jiji, tuko job. Calling out on their masters. So it means there was a section of goons that were actually paid, allegedly, by some of the leaders in this country. So what does it say when it comes to matters of governance? I think that's a question and a debate that we need to have consciously as Kenyans, as professionals, because at the high time we need to call a spade and not a big sport.
Yeah,
that's true.
Things are not as normal, and worse, it comes on the back of an anniversary of June 25th, 2024, when, even up to date, there are young people who are still missing from their homes. Why? They disappeared during the protest, the anti-finance bill protest of 2024.
But I want to ask
but days ago. I mean,
yes,
days away. So is this the right time that we need
Regina,
to...
let me just ask a very simple, to all of us again. Don't we have enough police officers in this city to protect, apart, you know, rather than having goons?
Yeah.
I mean, don't we have enough police officers to protect us across the city?
Yeah, we did not need any extra people.
Do we need any extra civilian support and reinforcement?
Yeah.
And Victor, you talked about trust deficit. And as at now, I can tell you, I don't think it just got to a new low. Because you see, going by what happened yesterday, the shooting of an armed civilian, there's no way that a Kenyan will trust a police officer given the event of yesterday. So how will that be mended and bring the civilian and the police officer on the same table for them to work together?
That is the question as well.
That's a
now,
question.
And what we're calling for is just for the rogue officers to actually be held accountable. That is the list that can be done.
Yeah.
Okay, that aside, today being a Wednesday, we have a lot that will be happening right here on the show. We'll be having different conversations. I'm sure Victor will be getting into the same thing that we have been talking about with his panelists immediately after the news. And on Women at the Forefront, I will be joined by Christine Wangare, who is an environmentalist who is painting Nairobi green. So we will be getting into that later on.
Right. I think we'll just take it to Regina. Regina? Just take it away.
As I take it away, let me give you some food for thought. Yesterday, we saw civilians pitted against each other.
Yeah.
While some section of civilians were on the streets calling out poor governance, poor leadership in echelons of government. Others were being used because of poverty and unemployment to fight those who are fighting for their rights. How diabolical are we? As you ponder on that, now let's bring you up to speed with stories that have been making headlines, where one person was shot and several others injured as police battled goons and protesters who staged demonstrations in Nairobi's central business district. The demos that began Tuesday morning lasted for hours as protesters called for the resignation of the Inspector General of Police and his deputy over the death of blogger Albert Ojwang. This as the National Police Service confirmed the arrest of the police officer who was captured on camera shooting an unarmed civilian in Nairobi's CBD. Giverson Maina has a recap of yesterday's events.
Tuesday morning at the Nairobi Central Business District, protesters made to their threats and poured on the streets to express their anger over the death of blogger and teacher Albert Ojwang. However, goons armed with batons also took to the streets, seemingly to battle the protesters. They hovered around with motorbikes with their faces covered with masks. Some even decanting on security cameras mounted along the city streets and looting shops. The demos paralyzing public transport and thousands forced to walk to various destinations. Matatus plying Thika Road route parked far at the Globe roundabout, where passengers onboarded to hurry out of town as sounds of tear gas canisters and gunshots filled the air. The main battle front was at the intersection of Moi Avenue and Kenyatta Avenue and Tomboya Street adjacent to Menti House.
Na nimekasirishwa sana na matendo ya serikali.
One person was shot after a brief engagement with the police. In a rejoinder, Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja said the police officer caught on camera gunning down an armed protester has been arrested. Kanja ordering for his arraignment in court. And as the demos faded, the extent of destructions became clear, most businesses' premises paying the ultimate price. In Mombasa County, 4 human rights activists were arrested as police dispersed the handful of protesters who held a peaceful demonstration in the streets of the coastal city.
We are peaceful! We are peaceful!
The activists who began the procession from the IPOS branch office along Moi Avenue accused the police of unlawfully obstructing their right to peaceful demonstrations.
We have security officers that have condoned, barricaded the venue that we were supposed to initiate and begin our peaceful demonstration, calling for justice for the late Albert Ojwang.
Ofisi yetu ya Mombasa itafuatilia hili jambo kuona mbona polisi wamekataa nyinyi msiandamane, ili hali ni haki yenu, na kama wamedecline, it should be in written communication that these are the reasons as to why we are not allowing you to go ahead and do the demonstrations.
Defiant protesters took to the streets and clashed with police for hours and hours, leaving behind destruction and injuries.
Now, the reason why the social media platforms are, are rife with hashtags including total shutdown as well as read the room in regard to that matter. What was your experience yesterday? We'd want to hear your views. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. Now, members of the National Assembly have condemned the use of excessive force by police, especially during public protests. During a debate on a special motion to approve 3 nominees to the National Police Service Commission, lawmakers called in the incoming commissioners to prioritize comprehensive police reforms, and the MPs emphasized that the new commissioners must urgently address a culture of impunity within the police service and ensure that officers uphold human rights and the rule of law.
It is totally reckless and irresponsible what that police officer has done, and they are doing a disservice to this government, because when you make 5 steps forward or 10 steps forward, they take you 50 back. And we need to be moving forward as a country.
We must, Honorable Speaker, begin thinking of how we can enjoy these fundamental freedoms, while aware they have limits, and while aware these police officers, if they avoided keeping law and order, there is a problem. That is not to say our police should behave. Indeed, those ones who misbehave must be held accountable.
At this point in time, where we are facing a bit of difficulties as a country, that we should not look away. The work of the National Police Service Commission is cut out, particularly in the area of accountability and transparency, of us being able to address ourselves to the citizens of our country.
We'll be keeping tabs on that, given that the reports that were received yesterday evening, and we had government officials confirming that they said a man who was shot at gunpoint during the protest, he's in critical care and receiving that medical assistance at the Kenyatta National Hospital. We'll be keeping tabs on that development to find out if indeed was a man who was captured on camera, or even it was someone else. We'll be keeping tabs on that to give you clarity on the matter. Now, the High Court has declined bail applications for 3 accused persons in the murder of Kasipul MP Charles Ongondo Were. Justice Diana Kavedza cited that releasing the 3 at this juncture, based on the nature of their charge, would compromise justice. As Ruth Wamboi reports, the judge has urged all parties to tighten their seatbelts as she promised to dispense with the matter in 4 months.
The 3 accused persons are Lake Basin Officer Ibelucheng, alias Dave Kalo, Edwin Othiambo and William Emoli Shigali, alias Emo. Application for bail through their lawyer Hita Dave Ear.
Number 3, this court has the power, the authority and the jurisdiction to actually even direct the accused persons from never communicating or interfering with any witness whatsoever. And should that be done, the consequence is that bail is cancelled.
Is a matter of evidence which my lady cannot discern at this stage unless such evidence is subjected to a test of its veracity by way of cross-examination.
The court also declined a request by the 3rd accused, William Emoli Shigali, alias Zemo, to bury his mother, with the judge citing granting the request will be setting a bad precedence.
The application to attend the burial of the mother is denied because I do not know whether he's a flight risk. I do not know whether, I cannot guarantee his safety. He is in prison. How is he going to be escorted from prison? Where to the burial place is where? Is it Langata? Western. How? Where are the resources?
The accused on the 4th of June this month had threatened to kill a state prosecutor after their bail terms were also declined. Prosecuting counsel Evelyn Onunga told trial judge Diana Kavesa they have a watertight case ahead and the accused should remain behind bars.
And my lady, the discreet nature of how Witness Protection Agency operates, we may not table any document before you to demonstrate that actually there's a process undergoing.
The judge has ordered for a probation report with the investigating officer and the probation officer, citing they will need 30 days to prepare.
With the 20 witnesses, proper pre-trial, I should be able to finalize the case within 4 months. But your name is Oliver who? Nabonwe. Usinilete story ya 100 investigating officers, 50 arresting officers. Unaweza chukua kamoja tuwili hapa, so that we move with speed. You can see the anxiety that the case has created.
The accused have been in custody for 50 days now since the late MP was killed on 30th April this year at the city funeral roundabout.
Funerals are never repeated and just basically on humanitarian grounds. So denying him the opportunity to attend the mother's funeral, yet he's still innocent until proven otherwise, I believe is inhuman and it is wrong.
Mama yake haswa mzazi alisikia machungu na ameweza kutuaga, lakini koti nayo imeamua hawezi kuhudhuria kufuatana na uzito wa kesi yenyewe. Yote tunashukuru Mungu tatendeka kwa Mungu ndio mwenye uwezo.
Even as the wheels of justice for the late Kasipul MP Ongondo Were continue to grind, the third accused, Emoli Shigali, will have to attend his mother's burial virtually, pending the ruling on his bail application. Ruth Wamboi reporting from Kibera High Court.
And in those 4 months, we'll be keeping tabs on the development from the courts. Still on matters justice, a software developer accused of defrauding NCBA Bank over 57 million shillings will be detained for 5 days to allow police to complete their investigations. The ruling by Minimani Law Court's magistrate follows a court session where both the prosecution and the defense presented contrasting arguments on whether the suspect should remain in custody or be released on bond. Elsewhere, a former chief of protocol officer in Garissa faces charges of forgery and fraudulently acquiring public property worth 6.8 million shillings. Latua Deborah with the details.
The prosecution, through Corporal Amos Ndonyi of the Banking Fraud Investigation Unit, told the court that Harry Nandwa was a key suspect in a complex banking fraud that targeted NCBA's Bank Rwanda subsidiary.
Noting the technical expertise of the respondent, who is a software developer, there's a possibility that he will gain access into the system, which may result into more loss of funds to the bank and its clients.
Nandwa, who previously worked as a consultant, is alleged to have tampered with the mobile banking system, triggering illegal transactions that led to the loss of 57.5 million shillings. Presiding Magistrate Ikubi granted a 5-day detention period and scheduled the matter for mention on June 24, 2025.
I find the application to be merited and competent to the extent that the respondent would be detained for a period of 5 days at the Capitol Hill Police Station. So I've granted the pre-trial detention for 5 days.
Elsewhere, Hadija Abdullahi Bare, a public officer formerly employed at the county government of Garissa as a chief protocol officer, has been charged with multiple offences including fraudulent acquisition of public property, deceiving a principal, forgery and altering false documents. Ms. Barre is accused of illegally acquiring property valued at 6.8 million Kenya shillings and providing forged academic documents purportedly from the University of Nairobi to secure her employment. She was released on a cash bail of 100,000 Kenya shillings or a bond of 500,000 Kenya shillings. And 7 police officers accused of shooting and killing Daniel Mwangi in London Estate, Nakuru on June 9th have been detained for 7 more days, pending investigations by Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA. The 7 are Sergeant Nikaso Njue, Corporals Eric Mwangi and John Kihara, and Constables Naftali Gitonga, Ephantas Njeru, Marcela Tanui, and Isaac Anampoe. Senior Resident Magistrate Senior Muhoro, however, declined to grant IPOA 14 days they had sought through the Office of Director of Public Prosecution.
Through this miscellaneous application, I will allow the application party, the respondents shall remain at Menengai Police Station for a further 7 days or not 14 days, pending completion of the investigations. We will mention the matter on 24th of June before the duty court.
From the courts, the government has supplied crucial relief items to victims of a fire that broke out at a stage Wuria in Kawangware, Nairobi County, killing 1 person and rendering 14 families homeless. Through the Ministry of Public Service, Human Capital and Special Programs, the State Department for Special Programs underscored the government's commitment to responding promptly to disasters and alleviating the suffering of affected communities. The emergency supplies include foodstuff, beddings, soap and dignity packs. The exercise follows an early morning assessment visit by the Cabinet Secretary, Geoffrey Rocco.
Tumefika na brangeti pia ya kusema pole kwa wale ambao wamechomekewa. Tumefika na chakula kidogo, mchere na maharagwe. Lazima tushikane, tufanye hii kazi pamoja, tukuje tusaidie wale ambao wameathiriwa.
Wale wameadhiriwa tunataka tuwapatie pole.
The country is yet to meet its annual contribution towards vaccine procurement in the Gavi co-financing program, even as the Ministry of Health secures an additional 930 million shillings in the supplementary budget 3 to offset the 620 million shillings balance which is due in June. This comes amid a countrywide concern over the shortage of childhood vaccines in health facilities, which has seen the Ministry of Health adopt short-term measures to address the challenge.
As the country grapples with childhood vaccine shortage crisis, the Ministry of Health is banking on a 930 million shillings from Treasury allocated in the supplementary 3 to offset a balance of 620 million shillings to meet its annual contribution towards vaccine procurement in the Gavi co-financing program.
Basically, we have to put some money for Gavi to support us, and that money, 930 million, has actually been made available. This disruption came because we did not meet the deadline, but this money now will help us meet the deadline, and we should be able to forestall any shortages.
National Assembly Health Committee Chairperson Dr. James Nyikal, while responding to a statement regarding the shortage of vaccines, said much as the ministry has adopted short-term measures, more needs to be done.
The most difficult one has been the timely disbursement of funds. Our goal is clear. No child or eligible person should ever miss a life-saving vaccine due to preventable supply chain failures.
To address the shortage, the Ministry of Health made an emergency disbursement of 1 billion shillings to support procurement of essential vaccines through UNICEF, including BCG, oral polio, tetanus, diphtheria, among others, and distributed on 4th and 11th of June. The counties that received include Kisumu, Kakamega, Nakuru, Eldoret, Garissa, Meru, Nyeri, Nairobi, and Mombasa, with BCG totaling 1.94 million, oral polio 1.9 million, and tetanus 1.05 million.
These quantities are sufficient to sustain the country's routine immunization program for a period of 3 months. Now, the logistics for quick distribution, as you have said earlier, across the country is working with the Council of Governors through the county governments.
Before the 11th, when the vaccines were made available, there were children who were born in various hospitals, including my own constituency, and did not receive these vaccines. And I'm sure it will be all over around the country. Perhaps I would have expected the chair to give just a guideline to Kenyans, because those children who did not get those vaccines, what happens? Those mothers took those children, went home, and those children remain at home.
Do some advocacy to the country that those children who are born in hospitals and missed BCG vaccinations should go back and get them.
In a co-funding framework agreement, Kenya is expected to make its annual contribution towards vaccine procurement.
Now to matters business, the Kenya Revenue Authority will not have unfettered powers to access taxpayers' private data. The National Assembly says the tax agency will only have access to information regarding the tax history of a taxpayer. Parliament says these are some of the planned amendments to the Tax Procedure Act. Legislators have also slashed the taxes to be raised from the Finance Bill to 24 billion shillings from 30 billion shillings.
National Treasury wanted some clauses of the Tax Procedure Act amended to give Kenya Revenue Authority sweeping powers to compel individuals and companies to disclose data of a taxpayer without a court order or the consent of the third party. The move faced major backlash on grounds of violation of the constitutional right to data privacy. The National Assembly's Finance and Planning Committee has rejected the clause, terming the provision unnecessary and potentially unconstitutional.
There are some institutions that have a recipe for some beverages that are said should never be shared with members of the public. Now, what happens if you give access to such particular data, Honorable Speaker?
If, for example, you go sleep in a hotel, KRA can be able to get your data. to know where you slept and whom you slept with.
I do support the committee's move to delete clause 52 so that the commissioner does not require any person to integrate or share data that is relating to trade secrets, but most importantly, to private or personal data.
The tax agency said the move was aimed at tightening tax loopholes. The committee says there are tax procedures and legal avenues that KRA can use to access taxpayers' data. At the same time, the committee plans to slash the amount that the finance bill seeks to collect from 30 billion shillings to 24 billion shillings.
Government projects to generate an additional 24 billion in revenue for the 25-26, underscoring the commitment to building a fair, transparent, and efficient tax system.
During the 2025-26 budget reading, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Badi said amendment to the Value Added Tax Act contained in the Finance Bill 2025 would help raise an additional 30 billion shillings to finance the budget deficit. The committee is also planning to extend pension tax breaks to private scheme pension managers.
So it says that provided that this exemption shall only apply to payment of gratuity or other allowance paid in public schemes. So we are deleting that particular paragraph and replacing it with the word only gratuity. So which means that this gratuity will be even those gratuity that are not in public pension schemes, not just those that are in private schemes, not only those in public schemes, Honourable Speaker.
The finance bill, which was tabled in Parliament on Thursday last week, is due for debate by legislators before it comes into force on the 1st of July 2025. Hearing on the bill continues.
Well, indeed, that puts a cap on matters in the headlines this morning. Some of the stories that we are keenly following up on is post-demos yesterday, where an unarmed civilian was shot on live camera by a police officer there. Government says that the said victim there is recuperating at the Kenyatta National Hospital, though in critical condition. We'll have a team go there in the morning to just get the details in regard to that matter. And also pursuant to matters of, justice and such, those who are arrested during the protests, we will have someone at the courts should they be produced in court. This also follows IG's directive to have that said police officer caught on camera shooting the unarmed civilian yesterday brought to book, or rather brought to justice. So we're expecting him in the courts, and Ruth Wamboi as well as Letua are on the courts and are going to be keeping tabs on that. Further details are available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. I'm Regina Manyara. Have a great day ahead.
In a world where news is ever changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1. The men and women in boots. They are commanded to defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. Their bravery knows no limits.
Make a man go through laziness. It is
But what are their skills? Details every Sunday. Troy Joy.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us. It's now time for us to get into the Viewpoint, being the 18th day of June 2025. Taking a look at basically what's happening in the country, and that is almost doing a 360-degree kind of coverage on what is expected of us. And we all know what has been happening there. And today I want us to make some sense out of what is happening and how we can bring some sanity in the country. Now, my guest is already in studio. I have Wilson Susion, who is, there you have him, right on the screen. Mheshimiwa, you look so good today.
Oh, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm good. That's nice.
All right.
Wilson, beautiful.
And you look beautifully handsome today. And so bright. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
He's a former nominated member of Parliament and former NAT Secretary General. He is doing his best on the show every day. I'll be joined by Newton Hamasi shortly, who is a SecGen Western Professionals Caucus, otherwise known as WEPROC, and Honorable Tom Odege, who is the legislator representing the great people of Nyatike. All right, before we get to the discussion, Mheshimiwa, even before we get to the newspapers and the substantive discussion, I really want us to, since we met last week, would you please just give me a quick overview of what has stood out for you, what has happened in the country, and certain things that you think should change as we move on. Some of the key highlights since last week.
Not even key highlights, key highlight. There is only one key highlight. The consequences of the death of Albert Ojwang in the cells. A very young, gifted teacher who died a painful death that no Kenyan should die. And no person should die under the hands of the police. This has gripped and paralyzed the country. And it has taken time to establish exactly what happened. And this has revealed the rotten practices that sometimes go on within our police stations. That some individuals under arrest are subjected to some disciplinary beating supervised by the police and executed by inmates. You know, you can imagine you are using murderers, remandees, being charged of murder to beat up a person arrested. I think that is completely immoral. It is something that of course the police service has been skirting around, and we saw the different information, what transpired in Parliament. It never came down to the truth until now. From what the IPOA has done, it turns out that Albert Ojwang was beaten cruel by 4 inmates to death within a very short time.
Okay, because
through.
Yeah.
This is just because you've asked what happened in the week, because that release that jilted the country, and when you hear it is some inmates who were permitted by our own police. You set a criminal who was killed to discipline a person arrested. And you have both some alcohol and some other hard stuff so that the exercise can be executed.
Yeah.
That is wrong. That fundamentally is wrong. And I think what Kipchumba Murkomen and the CS Interior pronounced in terms of the way forward to reform the police and to ensure that the ICT infrastructure is in place and all that may go a long way in reducing some of these activities.
Yeah.
Illegal criminal activities. It is not right for the police to promote criminal actions within the police station. The police station should be centers of law and order. And it is where any Kenyan who is threatened, whether you are a murderer, can find safety.
Yeah.
But it is not where you can arrest anybody and within 7 minutes is no more. That is not right. And this matter is not going to go away soon. This must be addressed by all of us, and it should be depoliticized. Let us not have politics around it. If we may question, what was the motive of beating Albert Ojwang to death?
Yeah.
What really was the motive?
And now the consequences
was it supposed to trigger some political activities? What was the intention? Because that remains mysterious, as the death was indeed mysterious. And as a country, we must stop politics around this matter and investigate thoroughly and get the criminal motive of this.
Okay.
And those who are involved should be severely punished. As a country, we don't punish criminal actions. We are a very tolerant country to criminal activities by individuals, whether they're police and in even other sectors. We tend to live and accommodate with criminal activities. And the moment we become tolerant and we create some harmony and live with criminal activities of this nature, then we are promoting anarchy in the society. That is what transpired in the week.
All right. Okay, my guests are also getting ready. Let me take you a quick wrap on what I have on the front page of the Standard newspaper. On the front page of the Standard newspaper says simple, killer police. That is what I have on the front page of the Standard newspaper. And the layout of the entire front page is black. Black is never color. Black is a shade of black. So this is where we are, and it signifies something quite deep and profound. Killer cop, the killer police. It says that he came to sell masks, but left with a bullet through his head. Boniface Kariuki thought that he'd get some cash in the protest day by hawking face masks, but a rogue police officer shattered that hope with a shot to the skull. He's now fighting at the hospital, a struggle that if he pulls through, his life will never be the same again for him. As thugs looted shops unchecked and police looked the other way, Boniface lay bleeding on the cold pavement. His friends cried, still haunts the chaos. What will his mother, wife, and children be told? Of course, there is a graphic illustration of what happened and the alleged killer police. That is the graphical expression of what really happened, the point of his torture, the point of his alleged assault, and finally when the deadly shot was fired, and now the bigger picture is when he lay on the pavement. This is just but a clear presentation, or perhaps what happened yesterday that were not captured on camera. And I really want us to get on this. Newton Hamasi. Newton Hamasi is the Secretary General of Western Professional Caucus, otherwise known as WEPROC. Umwami.
Yes.
Omora. Karibu sana. How are you?
Good morning, Victor.
You're well?
I'm well, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Yes.
And Mheshimiwa Tom Odege, who is the legislature representing the great people of Nyatike constituency, also on set. Mheshimiwa, karibu to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you very much.
The same way I've given Mwalimu Sosion a minute to give me a quick wrap of what stood out. Newton, a quick one. Since last week until where we are today, what are some of the key highlights, or a highlight for you? What has really stood out? I mean, we've been here the whole of last week and up to this morning.
Victor, it is a very sad morning to wake up to a lot of things that have happened for the previous week. And something that is very critical to put forth is to our servicemen in uniform. Kenyans, the young people, the women of this country, the hustlers of this country are not your enemies. And probably it is about time we remind them that they are not our enemies as young people, as people who want justice. The only thing we are doing as a people is to be patriotic for our nation, Victor. Because if you look at the happenings of the things, it's like we are at war with the police. We are not at war with the police. And that is why we are trying to reach out to them and tell them, we are not your enemies, our servicemen in uniform, men and women. Because it is sad how a young man goes to the streets to protest for justice and comes or goes back home dead or hurt, like the case that happened yesterday, Victor. And it's a very humble call to the police officers.
Yes.
You are a national police service. Your mandate is not to protect a regime that is rogue. Your mandate is to guard the Constitution of Kenya. And as the people, we believe that our presence in this country, our protests in this country, our demand for justice and end to brutality or a rogue regime is not intended to harm you as the police officer, no. It is intended to make a better country. And therefore, please, we humbly request, we are not at war with the Kenya Police Service, or the National Police Service rather, but you're here at war with impunity that has grown in this country, with injustice that is happening in this country. Therefore, please, we beg you, because you have gotten to a point where our life matters. And every young man who dies in the hands of the police, it paints the service in a bad way. And we don't want to go to a place where it is the people versus the police, no. The police are here to protect the Constitution, not the regime of the day. Because you have had presidents before. His Excellency President William Ruto is not the first and the last. The police service will be here. It has been there, it will be here, it will forever be there. The people of the Republic of Kenya, we are here today, we'll be here tomorrow, we might not be there. But we have a duty of responsibility as patriots to protect and guard the Republic of Kenya. Not for us, but for the generations that are here and the generations to come.
Thank you.
So to the police, we are not at war with you.
Well taken. Newton, I'll come back to that. Mheshimiwa, yesterday, where did the whole fracas get you? Were you in Parliament yesterday, or what happened? But even that, what has really stood out for you as a citizen, first of all?
Okay, thank you very much, Olo. Yesterday, I was in Parliament. I would say a better part of the day, because from 9 I was in a committee. Then at 2:30 I was in the sitting in the House. But we could access what was happening in town using our phones, and those who also had chance to see TV could also see. I won't agree with the two who have talked ahead of me. When I listened to Sosion, he said clearly that we need to dig deep and know exactly what happened, and we depoliticize this Albert's issue, which I agree with fully. When you listen to my brother here, he has also talked about we are not enemies of the police, we are not at war like that, such a thing. Yeah. But me, what I want to add on what they have said, when you look at how these things are happening very fast, because even the Ojwang's case has not settled, which we expected each and every police officer who is sober enough to would have learned a lesson from it. So if you look at what happened yesterday, it's clear there is a problem in police. When Kenyans sat and said, can we make a police to be a service, not a force, it seems this one has not worked. Because when you look at what's happening and how the policemen are becoming trigger happy, we must agree there is a rot in the police. And the service part of it is not there. We are still having a force. What do we need to do as Kenyans? We need to relook into the whole police system in the country, because this rot might be deeper than the way we are thinking. What kind of officers do we have? What the level of training? Or are they appreciating being there to serve Kenyans? Or is it a psychological problem? Are they underpaid? Are they frustrated? Because what's coming out is like somebody is unleashing some pressure out. Because like this gentleman who was selling masks, even if he was pretending, but the guy was not armed. He was not even offering any threat to the officers. He was alone versus those officers. He could have not done anything. If they wanted to arrest him, the guy was at their disposal. They would have done anything they want with him. Yeah. What was the use of the gun there? You ask yourself, why do you use a gun when it's not necessary? You know, when somebody confronts a police officer, where a police officer is also defending his life, you can also feel, because police officer is also a human being.
Then we have the clip there. We have that clip there. It was a quick succession that if you're not keen enough, there you have it. And like within a split second of 5 seconds, you look at the gentleman was running away. Probably he was already ordered to go there. But the question is, when you look at such kind of stuff, and the whole irony here, gentlemen, is that Kenyans went on the street to protest against the death of Ojwang in the hands of the police. And another man also getting shot in the head, again in the hands of the police. Then that begs the question, much as you're saying, Mheshimiwa, that we need to have a lot of holistic approach to change the curriculum, either the system, the police service. We've had this discussion over and over again, that even when you go to police training colleges, they're having a change of curriculum and syllabus on how to do this. But it seems that somebody somewhere is not willing to change. The Mwananchi is being told, you need to handle police officers like this. But the police, probably, from what we saw, is there something stuck somewhere that is not working out, or who is not getting it right? Let me get it from you, Mheshimiwa Sosion.
You know, when leadership decides to drive the engine of transformation, there will be transformation. In the Constitution, we envisage to develop a police service. We have a police service commission. It took many years for the police service commission to even be given accounting powers. It is President Ruto who gave them accounting powers on 13th of September 2022, when he was sworn in. The working conditions of the police in terms of housing, terms and conditions of service, the Maraga report, has it been implemented? You know, you don't put things on paper and you expect miracles and magic to happen. If retraining is required, it needs to be done. If retooling the police ideologically and in terms of skills needs to be done, then it must be done. if it is upgrading the infrastructure of the police station so that they're decent and including prisons, then we must do it. And this reminds me of the time when Mudi Awori was the vice president and the minister for Home Affairs. And you remember the great steps that he took to dignify the prisoners and the prison service. This is now a great moment to reform the entire infrastructure of the police service in the country. We need to do that. And while we are upgrading the police service, there is also citizens' responsibility where we are failing. And I would like to implore upon the SG here who has talked about justice. You cannot engage in injustice and criminal actions in the name of looking for justice. That's a paradox in itself. It's contradiction.
Like in this case, was that guy was that gentleman? Was that gentleman involved in any sort of crime?
No. Before I come to the gentleman, there are other related actions, like breaking into business premises during demonstrations. That is not demonstration. Those are criminal activities. And as a country, we also need to frame how to conduct demonstrations. I and Tom, we have led demonstrations in this country for the longest. And there is nothing greater than peaceful demonstrations. When they are peaceful, nobody complains. Don't touch anybody's property, or don't touch anybody not involved with what you are doing. And this is what I need to school my brother here also. So don't turn one side of the coin, you see the tail. You must also turn the other side and look at the head. So we have a societal challenge. Even as we reform the police, how do we package our activities like demonstration? Look at, for example, was it necessary to break into the fence of Parliament, go and destroy property on Parliament on 25th and say, hey, we are fighting the finance bill? That was not necessary. The violence associated, burning, destroying property, so that when you talk of a day of demonstrations in the city, then those doing business end up losing their property. Finally, to the young man who was shot yesterday, that was wrong. And I'm happy this country, the cameras, we can always have pictures of everything that is happening everywhere. It was wrong for the police officer to shoot. That was a demonstrator. That should not even have been beaten or baton. You know, the police baton, let alone shooting. So really, we have a problem with those organizing demonstrations, and those organizing demonstrations escalate the threat to the police, and you'll end up prompting the police to use lethal force.
Thank you.
We must avoid frontiers where we get to using lethal force on simple activities that are progressive for the country.
Mheshimiwa, that is already outlined, and I'm so sure the police officers know at what point to use excessive force. All right, so let's take a break. And we come back, I really wanted to get into the deep root causes of this problem, what we are facing in the country, and how we can get a solution to this. But much importantly, the political punch-up that we are seeing in the country. Over the weekend, we cannot run away from this gentleman. The president said that he's not ready to hand over power to people who are planless, all right, who are planless. I want us to talk about that shortly when you come back. Newton, what's the problem? What's the problem? I've just said let's take a break. Let's take a break. Let's take a break. I'll come back. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Newton.
RSG.
Speak both sides.
No, I cannot be on the both sides.
No, you must speak both. We can't have lawlessness also.
All right, I'm told we need to continue for a minute. All right, so coming back to you again, I beg your pardon for that. So I asked that question, Newton, and you're shaking your head. Where are we in terms of handing over power? That statement was made in can I say your home turf or something?
Yes, it was Lugari actually.
Lugari?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Victor, just before we proceed on whatever the president termed over the weekend, I just want to ask my senior here, former SG for NAT and a former nominated member of parliament. You know, this country, I believe, we have a situation where we have a deficit in leadership. When you hear my friend here speak, you imagine that he's living in a place where there are no rules and regulations. Demonstration is not a privilege. It is a right enshrined in our constitution. That is a right.
Tell me about destruction of property.
Now, destruction, that is where we are going,
no, tell me
Honorable
about that
Sossion.
one. Yeah.
You know, it is so shocking to hear him talk about looting. When in a forum where the governor of Nairobi, which is a shame, talking of how when people will come to demonstrate, they'll find his people. Victor, those people who meted violence yesterday, those people who looted yesterday, there is evidence on video, are not protesters. They are people who have been sponsored by the state. And we'll say it as it is. We'll say the truth to power. And we're not here to negotiate for these things. No. Whatever happened yesterday, it was not because of the people. No. It was because of the state. The state supported the violence and actually they financed the violence yesterday.
Can you ascertain that?
Yes, because we can see the goons were walking in front of Governor Sakaja's office and they were saying, Kumi, bila break. What does that mean? They were wielding weapons. They were being supported and escorted by police officers. That is not something that is a new thing. You know, when the state fears criticism, they go this direction of sponsoring goonship. And we are telling them, it is not a matter of right or wrong. The state needs to do what is required to do. They're in power right now. They need to follow the law. They need to ensure that the constitution is followed to the letter. We cannot have a demonstration and then you send goons, sponsored and financed. And I can strictly, rightfully pin the governor of Nairobi to the mess that happened yesterday. It is not something that is rocket science to understand or to pick that up. So when I hear my colleague here say that demonstrators were looting and destroying property, that is being insensitive to the mask vendor who was shot yesterday, to the man who was looted, who was beaten up along Koinange Street. He was carrying his files. But you saw what happened to him. Until the border people decided to mount violence also on those people who were sent. And I'm telling you, Victor, if this trend continues, and next week we shall be having another maandamano.
We just hope it will be peaceful.
If the government dares to sponsor these goons, please uniform them. Honorable Sossion, let them come in uniform. Because I can tell you, without fear of contradiction, the Kenyan people are going to vent violence on those goons in a way that is not going to be accepted in this
I don't think it's right to come and vent violence.
Because it is not about violence.
And Victor, I have right of reply.
Thank you. But let me just put it across. Let me just put it clear that no Kenya is going to meet violence or to meet violence on one another. I mean, if it's supposed to be peaceful, it will be peaceful. Newton, right?
Victor, yes, that is true. But if the state sends violence against us,
there'll be there's no eye for an eye.
Yes, that's what we are saying. We're just telling them. We have been very peaceful. Yesterday, Kenyans were very peaceful. But if the trend continues, Victor, I'm telling you, Kenyans are going to take the law into their own hands.
Newton, you are one person in the show. And this is a show.
Okay.
You cannot use the show to issue bitter threats.
It is not.
When you talk of violence and destruction, it was there. And you don't have any empirical.
I have already taken charge of that.
It went on within the ecosystem. It went on within the ecosystem of the demonstration. And that is why, Victor.
Let me add my voice. We are leaders.
Right.
And when we are leaders, if we have realized something has gone wrong, it's our responsibility to look for solutions, not to
fear,
not to fuel it. And I expect ourselves me, SG, Socio, and yourself, we must talk to Kenyans so that we get a balance. Because like now, yesterday, let's say we lost a life. That life will not come back. We lost Ojwang. Ojwang will not come back. So we need to talk in a manner whereby we can heal our country and get the wrongs fixed. I myself, I cannot support what happened yesterday, where the people were demonstrating and other people were also sponsored to counter them. That was wrong. That was an eye to an eye. That was wrong. And it's a mistake which we need to come here and say, how do we fix it? If we want to fix the issue of demonstration, police must stand tall and do their work. We cannot use citizens to help police do their work. That one cannot work. With that one, we are fueling more violence. Number two, we cannot sit here and again say goons looted. We don't have evidence.
There's no evidence at all.
We don't have evidence. What we need to tell Kenyans that they were looting yesterday, and we demand a report from the police on what happened, what went wrong, why were people looted. Yeah, because those people who are looting people on the road, you cannot sit here and say this was a goon, this was
this group.
This was you could not, because they were behaving the same. So what we need a very clear report, and this thing need to be investigated and see who are the people behind this thing. Because I can tell you from my point that both sides are sponsored. And we need to look at those who have sponsored them. Because if the riot was about Ojwang and everybody in the know were aware that DIG was mentioned and we were demanding for him to resign. After him stepping aside, we need to take a break and see is he stepping aside allowing investigations to go on smoothly.
Yeah.
But if he has stepped aside and we still escalate
violence,
escalate demonstrations, even with us, people who have been in the labor movement for long, when the employers accepted to negotiate,
you surrender.
You surrender and allow the process to continue. If the process fails, then you can go back on strike. But you cannot demonstrate forever when the person we have demanded to leave has left.
It's like you're flogging a dead horse.
Huh?
No, it is.
So we need to reason together. This country.
What it means, you're not after peace, you're after violence.
This country is ours, and if we lose it, nobody will gain. Me, you, and those people outside there will be all losers. So me, what I can tell Kenyans today, let us give a chance so that we know how this case of Ojwang will go. Now that Lagat is out. Now that the OCS is arrested, the Mukwanas and those people are also talking, and we could see some evidence coming out, let us allow that process to continue. Me, so far up to now, I cannot blame the government on anything on Ojwang because everything is playing the way people wanted to see. Let us wait for this investigation to be concluded. After that, if it's not done to our satisfaction, then we have a right to demand again and go to the streets and demonstrate and see that justice is done to that family. We cannot purport to be sympathizing to the family and again at the same time interfering with the process. Because like now, after Lagat left, who are we demanding to leave again?
Or what are we demanding?
Or what's on the table as the demand?
Yeah.
So let us allow that process to continue. Number two, I don't know, I want to pick his word. Because I don't have any evidence Sakaja sponsored goons, but he said it. If at all Sakaja sponsored goons in Nairobi, then Sakaja should also be arrested and charged. Correct. If there is evidence, because we don't want people to sponsor violence in this country. We want peace. We want our country to develop. Like yesterday, you look at the town. Apart from looting, there was no business. And we have a number of people in this country who come to Nairobi daily and get that day bread. They come do some manual jobs. They get money for their bread. They go eat it. And they start. Yesterday, they didn't eat. Yes, they could not eat. They do. They go home and start stealing also.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need
Remember, Mheshimiwa Godfrey Rook, who is now the CS, had a proposal in Parliament to streamline just should be. That is no longer a member of this.
What I can tell you is trying to do what theatrics. We have law.
Okay.
Which we only need to implement. And everybody needs to respect. There is no vacancy in that law. The law is complete and all round beneficial to all Kenyans. The only problem is our own. We are trying to violate it at the same time. If we are educated about the law and we implement it, because that law does not give you power, even if you go there to demonstrate, does not give you power over law.
Okay.
You as also goes reaches here, when you remit a law, you allow law also to exercise. The law is clear. So what we are trying to do here, people are just trying to circumvent the real issues and do their own things. Like now, when you come to town to demonstrate and you are given notice, and you are given room and security to demonstrate, why do you go to someone so?
Good question. Mheshimiwa Sosion, you know, it's good that you've mentioned, you've been in the labor movement for, we can't remember. And there are certain parameters when it comes to demonstrations and, you know, timelines and notices and all that. So now what happens? Many times you'll hear people say that we gave police orders and all that, but then all of a sudden they say that those orders were thwarted and then thereafter chaos erupts. What happened in such a scenario?
Yeah, I and Tom, we've done demonstrations for long, and there are protocols of doing it. Even as a leader, you don't call out your people to demonstrate without an organized strategy that secures their safety, that focuses on the message you want to communicate or petitions. You can't do that unless you have it in that particular organized manner. And once you do that, you can demonstrate for 100 days. We saw the doctors on strike for 100 days. And we never saw any disruption of businesses, destruction of property. There wasn't. We've done that within the labor sector. And we have seen the practice even all over the world. If you go to South Africa, they are very vibrant in engaging in public demonstrations. And they put on uniform. That is one practice. In some countries, you must be in uniform. You must define you're moving from which point to which point and who are demonstrating. Because rightly, as Thomas put it, in the Constitution, your rights stop where you begin infringing on the rights of others. So the road users, those doing business, the hawkers, they should not be affected by what you are doing. So it cannot be that when you are doing demonstration, you bring boulders to the road, you chase everybody out of town, you break into shops. Those are not demonstrations. And I think the political parties, this is a question now which goes to the political parties, organized groups, the civil societies. They have to go back and do their homework. Don't use the Constitution, which outlines clearly what ought to be done, to violate the same provisions of the Constitution by promoting violence and anarchy. Article 37 is clear. Kenyans can demonstrate peaceably and unarmed. It's very clear. So what the police are responding to is what I would call violent demonstration. Actually, what we witness here in Nairobi, in terms of standards, demonstrations and processions and practices, what we are witnessing here is war. There have never been demonstrations.
So there's a question I want to ask all of you. What does Wanjiku want? Newton, what does Wanjiku want? The Constitution is here. The laws are there. We have got several provisions and even some of the proposals perhaps in Parliament. Mheshimiwa is here. Then what does Wanjiku want?
It is basic and very simple. Wanjiku does not want police brutality. That is one. Two, Wanjiku wants to be listened to. And Victor, we have a very beautiful country. We have a very beautiful people who are very patriotic, Victor. Kenyans communicate. They are very good communicators. And we thank God for the social media platforms that we have. Because it feels like a social media revolution that is happening in the country. You see, Kenyans are very clear in communication. When the late Albert Ojwang died at Central Police Station, we demanded for the truth. Instead, the police gave us lies, which even they gave on the floor of the house. Then, after some time, the truth starts coming out. Yesterday, the truth is Kenyans were seeking justice. If we let the death of Albert Ojwang slide, how many Kenyans are going to die in the hands of the police officers? And I want to agree with my two panelists here. One is this. We need to look at the core reason why the police in uniform are behaving or are acting the way they are doing. Because I have had a reflection for the last 48 hours on what could be imploding the police officers, the rogue ones, to behave the way they are doing. And Victor, I have come to the realization that we don't treat our police officers well. And it is because of that bitterness they come outside here and think that as Kenyans, we are their enemies. We are not their enemies, Victor. And it is about time we call ourselves, we alert ourselves and talk about the issue of police officers. And this is what maybe I could recommend Sosion to give to the president. Before the president brings affordable housings to us as Kenyans, let him first of all ensure that the Kenya Police Service, the National Police Service, the police officers have affordable, good residential places. Let their needs be addressed. Two, because they're just 100,000 or so. Most of us Kenyans, we are like 60 million. The president might not honor every promise he made to us, but we are requesting him. Because with the trend it is taking, Victor, it feels like these police are hurting somewhere. And if we don't address that particular problem, we'll find ourselves in this mess day in, day out. And it is about time we look at that. Their salaries, are they being paid their salaries well? Because if you look at the officer who shot yesterday, he is amongst the Gen Z age bracket. That is a fact. And the same anger and bitterness that the young people have in this country with lack of jobs, with lack of something solid to do, with a country that cares and addresses their interest, is the same way this police officer will feel.
Okay. Bushima, what does Najik want?
You'll allow me to pick it from where he has left.
Go ahead.
By identifying that a police officer who sought was a Gen Z. And Gen Zs are crying for the job. And this police officer is employed. Those are the jobs those people outside there are crying for. This one is employed and still misusing the guard. Or those who are still looking for the job outside there. Then the begging question is that are these young people really well-oriented to know what they are looking for? Because if your own colleagues are looking for jobs outside there, you have a job and you're killing them. Number two,
I get a point.
That's the point which I've picked from him. Okay, what I wanted to say about Kenyans. What you're seeing in Kenya today, and I want to be very honest with you, we will try to come here and say what are the Kenyans looking for. But I can tell you what is going on today is purely politics against the regime, which we have currently.
Okay.
Today, we are using Ojwang. The Ojwang will go, then tomorrow we'll be using another thing. The day, so long as the Ruto regime is still in the government, there are people who will not stop from sponsoring noise until they see Ruto out. So let us not think what Kenyans are looking for is they want to be heard. There is no one who is listening to Kenyans than Ruto himself. You can see delegations going there, including entertainment industry. Everybody are trooping to State House every week, going to Ruto, is listening to them. Ruto has even gone public to open a forum to engage with the youths in X platform. So Ruto is listening to them. The room is open. People are listening to them. But what will make a group, a clique to feel satisfied is only when Ruto is out. And when although you will be in, there will be another group who will not listen until although is out. So the chorus we are in here today is not that now we can sit down and say what Kenyans want. If you ask me what people of Nyatike wants, I'll tell you. But if you lump Kenya together, we are so tribalized until we cannot speak as a country.
The question that many people are asking themselves is, you're a member of ODM.
Yes.
Where is your party leader?
Thank you. Okay, Raila has been out of the country. He came back, I think he's a day old in Kenya. Yeah.
And complaints are, people always see him, when such things do happen, he's usually come out, Capitol Hill, or do a press conference. He's never spoken.
But Raila...
And I can see, I'm so sure you're seeing a lot of memes going on social media and a barrage of statements against him.
Let me ask you.
Go ahead.
Raila, as a human being, has a right to go for leave, medication, family issues, and everything. And we don't need to speculate a lot about him. Unless you go and see Raila today, before seeing Raila in the office, you can't stand there and start questioning where he is. And you are aware Raila went out of the country. Some of us who are privy to information, he went for medical review. And Raila also needs a break. You don't expect Raila to be a small god. Raila is also a human being, and he needs a break. But on this one, the statement from Raila's office was very clear. Or that one is not enough. People just want to see Raila himself in the cameras or leading demonstrations. No. Raila as a human being can get tired, can get sick, can get engaged. We don't need to try to look for Raila everywhere. Let us give Raila a break.
All right. I don't know whether to go with you or not.
Now you will have to go with me. It's my turn.
Go ahead,
it is my turn. I think rightly as Tom is putting it, what we are seeing is not Kenyans clamoring for justice. Who has denied anybody justice in this country? Wow. Nobody. Wow. The only thing that some people have missed is power. So these are political activities, and I would call them political violence against a legitimate political institution in office. You know, if you want to defeat somebody in 2027 elections, you don't go the route of violence. You go the route of persuasion. Politics is persuasion. Go talk to people. Nobody has denied you that opportunity to go around the country and talk to people, sell your alternative views, give you. But when you elect route of violence, you wait for unfortunate incidences in the country, then you make capital out of it, like Ojwang's case. Like the finance bill, you now want to do the commemoration and such like things. That is a backward way of doing politics, and you may never even get that power anyway after all, because Kenyans are wise. They are not foolish. They are seeing what is happening. And no Kenyan does not want peace. We want a stable economy so that we can calibrate our programs. And the president is very keen on that. The delivery of the 5 pillars. There is need to put a lot of energy in the agricultural sector to spur manufacturing, value addition, and create programs and create jobs. There is need to ensure that there is UHC is delivered successfully and that Kenyans are treated without any problem. And unlike before, even critical illnesses are treated. There is need to roll out and make affordable housing real, roll out quality market infrastructure, and even eventually look at establishing quality infrastructure in our learning institutions within that space. There is need to strengthen the ICT infrastructure network. And the ICT should not be misused. It should not be used for war. It should not be abused. And there are a lot of things to be done. And the president has established a broad-based government. You're asking where Raila Odinga is? He's one of the key architects of the broad-based government.
Okay.
And he has appended his signature. And so he appeals to a peaceful country, an orderly country, where there is economic transformation and revolution in which the president is leading.
Where's camera? Your camera is number 5. Yes. Today I wanted to give you something, Mheshimiwa. In 30 seconds or in 45, talk to that camera and give us your quick analysis on what you think should be done to make Kenya great. Straight to the camera.
Let us reflect as a country. Go back to the Constitution and understand the spirit and letter of the Constitution. Let us not misuse the clauses in the Constitution to promote political anarchy and violence. We need a stable country so that the agenda of economic transformation can be achieved. Economic transformation is not going to be achieved through violence and through culture of dismantling our nationhood. And I think this is a moment in time for Kenyans to reflect deeply. Allow the president to drive his agenda. He has 5 years. If you have any issue with the president, wait for him at the ballot box in 2027. Don't go destroying property and disrupting businesses of Kenyans and promoting political violence in the country. We don't need it.
Okay.
For once, we need peace.
Thank you. Newton, where's Newton's camera? Number 1. As a leader, as a SecGen, what do you think can be done to make Kenya a good country? That is your camera.
What needs to be done to make Kenya a good country is to have leaders who respect the rule of law, who love accountability, who embrace criticism, who do not respond to criticism with violence. And as I've said, leadership is not something that is given to you is not something that is earned through arrogance. No. It is something that is given to us to exercise with humility. I implore to the current regime, the generation now is not interested in power. That is why the Gen Z, they don't have a face. They don't have a leader. All they're asking for is justice where there is injustice, accountability where there is theft, and unaccountability. What they're asking for is for their cries to be listened to, and for the leaders in position now to just do the honorable thing and honor the promises they have given to the Kenyans. Because if they do not honor those promises, Kenyans will ask for accountability. If that accountability is embraced as violence, as demonstration, so be it. But what we're saying, accountability is non-bargainable.
Thank you. Mheshimiwa Tom?
Thank you very much.
Your camera. Where is Mheshimiwa's camera? Number 1. Go ahead.
I want to be very categorical to the people of Kenya. All of us, we belong to tribes. All of us, we belong to clans. When it comes to peace and the development of our country, let us respect our clans and let us respect our country. We don't want to use our ethnicity to stop Kenyans from realizing peace as a country. We have a country for all of us. There is no day we will expel a clan from Kenya. All of us, we belong to this country. Let us not use our clans to muscle the government to succumb to things which cannot be achieved. We have to protect our country. We have to make our country be peaceful. Those of us who have traveled outside Kenya will agree with me that in this region we are, Kenya is the best country we have around here. Kenya is the most open country where people can talk their minds, where people can exercise what they want. And if you don't want to believe me,
try our neighbors and you'll tell me you'll regret why you visited a neighbor and come back to Kenya. We need to build a country where every Kenyan have a right to be heard, where every Kenyan have a right to be respected, where every Kenyan have a right to live. For our police officers, please, if there is a problem, don't address that problem on innocent Kenyans. Look for a way of addressing your problems, and to the government, can we look deep into the police and unearth a problem? There is a problem with our police, and that problem must be fixed so that Kenyans can trust police officers in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a better way to finish the show today. Mheshimiwa Sosion, do you agree with me? Thank you. We are done.
Thank you.
Asante sana. I've given you a minute each so that you can talk your mind to Kenyans. Apart from the debate that you usually have back and forth, you give your honest opinion and your honest pin-up on what you think should be done to make Kenya great again. For me, I think strengthening our economy, following the Constitution and devolution and rule of law, and just strengthening our governance system would make this country a better place. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Mheshimiwa Wilson Sosion is former nominated Member of Parliament and NAT Secretary General. Join me on set, Newton Hamasi, SecGen of Western Professionals Caucus, or otherwise known as WEPROP, and Honorable Tom Odege, representing the great people of Nyatike constituency, also on set. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. And even you as a Kenyan, please, let's go out there and make Kenya great, as always. Thank you. My name is Victor Lo. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Kulingana na vile nimepanga, kila kitu itakuwa sawa.
How do we get rid of my uncle Mark? Like completely, yani tumtoko picture mbaya.
What's your point?
My point is unabehave ni kama una bwana.
Because I don't have one. Your one sorry excuse of a man. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Wewe ndio wazimu. Kulingana na Dr. Mutua, anasema Mark ako na ugonjwa wa akili.
Uko ready kufanya anything unachotaka as long as we get to be a family again.
We can make a deal, Mama Felix. What deal?
Nafahamu uasis ama uanzilishaji wa sunna hii ya kuchinja katika tarehe 10 ya Dhulhijja. Walipokuwa tayari kumchinja mwanae, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aliteremsha kondoo kutoka mbinguni na kumwamuru Nabii Ibrahim kumchinja kondoo yule.
Kuwa na tabia nzuri aliyokuwa nayo Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallama, ili uwe mwenye kupendwa na Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallama na uwe karibu yake siku ya Kiyama.
Laka wal mulk la sharika lak.
Kila mwaka mamilioni ya Waislamu kutoka kila kona ya dunia hukusanyika katika ardhi tukufu ya Maka.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
In a world where news is ever-changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Good morning, Kenya gets to continue. Let's get into a different conversation right now, and we are going to be talking about meeting the affirmative action necessary for the children. And joining me for that conversation is one Kennedy Owino, who's the Principal Children Officer, National Council of Children Services. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on board.
Yeah.
And today we'll be basing our discussion on the National Care Reform Strategy for Children, that is 2022 to 2032,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And we're just going to be looking into that. So what exactly would you want us to pick from that?
Okay, for the National Care Reform Strategy for children in Kenya is a strategic approach into the way we are caring for children in this country. In the African culture, there is a way that children were cared for, and children belong to a community. And then at some point, we started moving from the communal aspect of owning the children to institutionalization of children, where children were now moving from the community and they are taken care of within institutions. Some people call them the children homes, the orphanages, the rescue centers. So we are asking ourselves, and this is the background of the care reform strategy, that what has gone wrong? Why can't children still be taken care of within family and community-based? Then, depending on the global research and the findings, we find that still family and community is the best place for the child. This is anchored in the legal framework, this is anchored in our culture, this is anchored in our values and norms. And that is why we are shifting from institutional care for children to family and community-based care for children.
So the reform is all about, or the main aim is to transition that, to transition children from institutional care to family-based and community-based care.
That is it.
Maybe what impact would you say institutionalization of children has on them?
I look at the impacts from the two perspectives. There are the positive impacts and the negative impacts. And in any debate, you have to weigh the positive vis-a-vis the negative and ask yourself, what is more beneficial? Global research and even the research conducted in the country has pointed to some of the negative impacts on institutional care for children. The detachment. These children who are raised in institution actually detach themselves from the family. They detach themselves from the community. That sense of belonging is not there. That is one. Scientifically, in terms of their development, the cognitive development of these children is also lagging behind. A child who is taken care of institutional care actually has 3 years behind in terms of cognitive development. And this is accustomed to the aspect that there is aspect of group care. If you go to maybe some of these institutions who take care of young children, you'll find one caregiver taking care of even 10 children. That one-to-one attachment, that one-to-one interaction, the nurturing care, the bond between the mother and the child is not there. And therefore, they lack that aspect of cognitive development. The stimulation aspect of it is gone. So, and then, if you go to institutional care, there is change of caregivers. And if there is rapid change of caregivers, for example, in a span of 3 years, a child has been taken care of by even 5 people. What does that one mean? The aspect of the aspect of children now failing to identify themselves with these people. The aspect of distress, you know, they don't trust these people. The mistrust aspect come in, and this even impacts on their life, even at adulthood. You know, there is no that attachment. So they find themselves even very difficult for them to adjust and attach a personality because they are used to changing of caregivers. So that becomes their lifestyle. When they leave institutional care and they go back to the community, assume a child who was taken to the institutional care at the age of 1 year, going back at the age of 18 years. He has lost completely identity with that community. He's trying to fix and suit into that lifestyle. And they realize it cannot be adjusting. So what does this child do? This person now returns to be a criminal. Getting criminal activities, or even finding a way of sustaining him or herself, not necessarily within the values and the norms of that particular culture.
Okay, I hear you on that. Now, as it is right now, according to the numbers that are out there, more than 45,000 children are in this institutional children care, right? More than 45,000 of them. So how are you working towards ensuring that all these 45 are placed somewhere? These alternative models that we're talking about, which is family-based and community-based, how are you working towards that transition of ensuring that all these children, you know, get a place?
Actually, the 45,000, that number has gone down as we are talking to about 43 because of the initiatives that have been taking place. So, but I know that is the one that was published when the care reform strategy was developed. Now, in terms of strategies, the first thing we asked ourselves, why are they in those institutions of care? Because unless we understand why they are there, we cannot have a working strategy for them to go back to the community. So the first thing we ask ourselves as a country, why are the children in these institutions? So this brought us to the aspect of what are the pushing factors and what are the pulling factors? The pushing factors are the factors that push these children away from the community to the family, into the institutions. The pulling factors are those that attract them. Then this one, analysis brought us to one thing, that there's a problem within the family. There's a problem within the community. And that brings me to the first pillar, strategic approach in terms of care reform, family strengthening, and prevention of unnecessary separation. How can we strengthen the capacity of the family, socioeconomically, even in terms of their resilience, so that they are able to take care of children within a family setup? You'll agree with me today, so many marriages are breaking down. And then the question is, where's the place of the children? When people die, where's the place of the children? I mean, we have come to an aspect where we are so much capitalistic that even, you know, a child to your sister, a child to your cousin, is no longer having attachment to you. So we are strengthening the capacity. And this is not as an aspect of people don't want. Maybe there are socioeconomic challenges. That is why the first pillar is talking about how can we strengthen the capacity of the family and promote their resilience so that they can take care of children within that family. Then, if that does not work, because that will not work for all children, not all children in the institutions have got known families, then what happens? We promote alternative family care. Alternative family care simply means this child is not going back to the biological family, but we are finding somewhere where this child can call a home. Foster care, which is more of a temporary care. Somebody will just say, hey, we as a family, we want to offer home for a child who has nowhere to call home, temporarily, as other mechanisms are done. Adoption, which is more of permanent. You can decide, I'm going to adopt 2 children, and you provide a family for them as if they are one biological children, and they'll enjoy all the legal rights just like your biological children. We are talking of kinship, just finding a kin and offering a family for that child. Among the Muslim community, we are talking about kafala. You know, we are talking about guardianship. So there are a wide range of alternatives that can still provide home for these children who cannot go back to their biological families. If that doesn't work, because you'll agree with me that people who are 18 years into the institutions and they have nowhere to go, then we come up with independent supported living, where you support this person to be independent and can, with time, providing necessary support so that with time this person can stand and say, I can now live on my own. But if all these approaches doesn't work, then we are going even the aspect of child-headed families. You walk into this country and find children, there's no caregiver, there is no that elderly person. But one of the children, actually the firstborn of that family, becomes the head of that family. So how can we support them? So that instead of disintegrating, especially for those total orphans, where you find child A has gone with X and Y and Z, why can't we support them in that setup? They'll still have that family, they'll still have that identification. They are living together, but they are supported in that aspect. And then now the last pillar is family tracing. There are people, their children, who got lost, and they are still within those institutions simply because we have not made deliberate efforts to have family tracing so that we can reintegrate them. So that is the systematic approach into how we are going to ensure that the 43,000 plus now in the institutions are actually going back to the community. Yes, through those three pillars.
All right. Yeah. Now, when we talk of foster care, as you mentioned, it's temporary care, right?
Temporary care.
Of these children who probably have nowhere else to be.
Yeah.
And we are also looking at a sense of belonging of these children, even as you were giving us maybe the impact that institutionalization has on these children, is that sometimes there's no sense of belonging. So when they are at foster care, is there a given period of time that these foster parents should have them? Because I can imagine maybe I decide to be a foster parent to this baby boy or baby girl, and then I have them for just 2 years and that's it. And then another parent offers to foster them. You know, where is that sense of belonging as well? And is there a given period of time?
Okay, fine, thank you. The maximum period of time for foster care is 3 years.
Okay.
And I agree with you that where's the sense of belonging in this? And that is why, some of the reasons why when we are reviewing the Children Act, and when we came up with the Children Act 2022, we looked at the aspect of foster care. You see, a foster carer is just a person who's saying, I want to provide that temporary care. I'm not taking this child for good. But we realize in the process, you can develop bonds. No one is coming up to claim this child, and you start to say, now, I want to transit from foster care to adoption. Currently, the law allows you. But there must be very exceptional circumstances under which you are making this application to transit from a foster carer to become an adoptive parent of this child. So the law allows that currently. But ideally, you need to understand that foster care is simply saying, instead of taking that child to institution, I can have this child under foster carer. And maybe in 1 year, 6 months, the family is stressed. Then you say, oh, the mother has finally been found. The family has finally been found. We can reintegrate this child. Instead of this child, imagine a day old going to that institution. And here's somebody saying, I can provide a home for 1 year as you work on family tracing and reintegration. But should that fail, and there is no one coming out, and you feel like you have really, really bonded with this child, there is no one claiming this child, and you would really want to continue and provide a permanent, then the Children Act currently allows you to move now from a foster carer to become adoptive parent. So the principles of terminating of foster care, we look at also sustainability. So, but it's again depending of your willingness as a foster carer. You are not compelled.
What is the council maybe doing in order to raise awareness on these matters that you've just talked about? You know, what are you doing to ensure that, you know, the community knows that there are such initiatives where you are allowing people to take in children if they are able to take in these children? What are you just doing to ensure that you're raising awareness?
Thank you. Allow me bring you the aspect of what is the mandate of this council, the National Council for Children's Services. It is a regulator in the children's sector. It's a coordinator. Is also providing oversight on matters of children and giving advisory to both state and non-state actors. In that view, the council is taking the central role of coordinating the implementation of care reform strategy, identifying the relevant stakeholders, bringing them on board, building their capacity, so that this information is cascaded to various levels. There is a whole department within the National Council for Children's Services that deals with partnerships, advocacy and public education. So what the council has done in terms of care reform strategy, immediately it was launched, there was regional dissemination where we went all the 8 regions and identified the TOTs to help us in cascading this information by identifying all the relevant key stakeholders, bringing them on board, building their capacity on matters of care reform. And above that, I'm here to do the same. So that I inform the public, we educate the public on why care reform is working and how it's supposed to be done.
All right.
Yeah.
And how are you ensuring the protection of these children, even as you're working towards that transition? How do you ensure their protection? And also maybe what support services are available to families that are taking in these children?
Those are two issues in one.
Yeah.
So the protection of children, first of all. How do we ensure protection of children? And then the support services. Allow me to start with the protection. In terms of care reform implementation, and in terms of even finding alternative homes for these children, there is a whole program of case management. What does case management entails? It entails various assessments. Yeah. So, for example, if you make an application to be a foster carer, I'll have to do an assessment. Personal assessment, family assessment, finding out what are your children saying about this child who want to be here. And then I also look at what are the needs of this child I want to place you with. Because maybe you want to produce, you want to offer, you be a foster carer, but you don't want a child who will be removed from your care after 1 year. So I cannot give you a child whom is there because the mother is undergoing trial in court. Because definitely that's a child that's from non-family. So the case management for integration involves doing assessment from the child perspective. Yeah, and also the family to be perspective, so that we look at what are the possible identified risks. You might be willing, but when I come to do communal assessment about it, they tell me no, that's not the right person for the children. Just recently, even her own children are being abused by herself. So you will definitely not qualify. So there are a lot of checks and balances before you finally given a child to be placed under your care. Then the fact that you are offering alternative family care for this child does not mean that you are treated differently. All the laws applicable to child protection will still be applicable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in terms of interventions, we don't really want alternative family care to be looked at an aspect of, because the aspects of being your lives. When the government or learned lessons, that 7, they were starting to who were orphans and you know, children all over, oh, so and so to that child. So we want voluntary that needs education. The Lord does not say. So, yeah, of the fact this has got some. That is why, if you look at substation 7, establishment of a welfare fund, alternative family care. I'm with you with the, because we really, and then we look at best in now fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even on the same, the children, are they involved of some of these things? I'm imagining be some communication. Are they being involved?
The it's not a question. They might, if you look at it, therefore, is child participation. For children, yes. If it is ours, without. So what does that one mean? Of the care reform strategy, there is that children said. In terms, remember I said, child assessment. I'm engaging the your views. How would you go to like 4 kids? who is more among the four for that. The child will tell you no, and so because
so their voices,
their voices and
yeah,
like when you are doing family integration, tells you to go to Swan. Do you know sexual? They are willing, they know us. I think you can't ignore yourself. So the voice of the children of engagement of the community. Yeah.
To listen to the voice of the nation. That's right.
In terms of when you talk, these are power. Whatever you mention a right, that is relations. Cannot approach. So the basis are protected. Creative framework works of the children. And the legal framework, because to the UNC conventions on the rights, the provisions on the these two documents, when Kenya signed the Act 2001, our children review and concerns for children called 2022 Children Act Cap 1 Kenya. That legal framework provide for the children of children rights, increasing the age from 10 to 12. 12 years. We believe the important aspect of that, so that of committing, we are saying that children in need, and therefore we should means to these children. Our whole framework, children in the aspect from to having their community. So framework. Yeah.
We'll a short break, but insights on all about look at some in place and to as the role in all of the role of the everything. I will be back to continue with this.
How do we get rid of completely? Yani
You're one You wanted to hear.
Thing unachotaka again.
Felix, what?
Advertisement, si ndio? I'm not vacuum people in the store. Wait, the English now is coming out.
I know. Kama kidogo ambaye ndaweza.
Umesikia market that way.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us, and let us continue with our discussion. Now, maybe if you can just talk to us about the challenges that you are facing as a council in this transition and what exactly you're doing in addressing these challenges.
Thank you, Vivian. When we say about transition, of course, I've given you the 3 pillars. But what are we transitioning? Transition does not mean taking children back to the community. It means changing the system. Because there must have been a system that promoted institutional care. Sure. There must have been a mindset that promoted institutional care. There might have been a legal framework that promoted institutional care. You are changing, you are also integrating the children, transitioning the children. And then finally, you are transitioning the institution itself, the infrastructure, the workforce, the resources. So in terms of transitioning, I'll say that there's a challenge because the first challenge is misunderstanding of the concept. So that people think that when you transition children, when you take children back to the community, reintegrate them, that is transition. So they are asking themselves, they're still finding it very difficult to handle the 2 other issues. And people will ask you, what do we do with these facilities? What do we do with these buildings? So we are systematic in telling the people and passing the information that transition is holistic. Because if you take these children back to the community and you have not addressed the push factors, what will happen? They'll find themselves back. If we are transitioning these children and the resources that were supporting them in the institutions are not supporting them in the community, what will happen? We are simply saying, no support. For the help, can you reach the family with this? For example, and that as a family, children. Yes, but you are reaching larger group. So that has been start deployment as a caregiver. Can you community? You can still addressing the transition or must be a drive. That when we are in one way or you are so on board reform strategies stick guide strengthen the existing We can use them. There are things we can. Even that person who decides for our children, do they have a as they go to the school? We are talking about of bringing everybody. The last challenge of institutional care, that when this money goes to the family intended purpose. Again, it also building the capacity and identifying what that with these resources still be used for children. A lot of issues saying our some people take our intended purpose resources continue to, and that is why as a council in engaging the funders of having a dialogue, main goal is to have children can reach 400 within the community. So which one has got return? Yeah.
From
any change there, you will be also. So 2018, 19 assistance ahead. I invite you to go and look. We went. We had a very with even the nations, and I'm happy today that assistant at the beginning.
Okay.
Why? Unless you change. So because I understood it well. Yes, this is with institutions, even with their resources, and tell you for the interest of the community.
All right. Fair for us to finish this conversation. Who are the reform, the
disability is a every legislation water. So as a children are a bit high. You would ask this that and on take them and a good learner goes to somebody and asks how. So as a country, even our deal with the issues of and an aspect we call this identify. You say the problem is children with why carry a child through this child or 2 years and then is that when we talk the person, that is when you realize the impact. What have we learned? We have learned as a country to abandon them, but it strengthens them. Take for instance, and one who requires 24 be engaged in no. Now comes one child. So what do I? These children for 5 years. As somebody was handle during the day. Therefore, programs. I that it is evident. Some parents were coming out and said, I abandoned this. Did that now? I can have this back. Yeah. Abandonment. Also, we have an leafy. The abandonment gone down. Forms are very systematic, pragmatic ability and the issues need. But once we are so the cost of living ability in section 2 medical care, free treatment, free possibility. Something we are implementing again is the cost. So issues of within the children police and within the national.
Well understood. Come to an end. You can just talk that each one of us has, because children may so now what is in all of this institutions and all of the state this
earlier that matters of children we must approach it holistically. Each one ask ourselves what is the gatekeepers community to go to the institution and the necessary measures to ensure that that child does not go to the community. Initially in the African context, when somebody, even a young mother, would have died and then living around along maybe a 2 months or 3 months, the community would sit down and say, now, so-and-so is gone, but who is another breastfeeding mother who can breastfeed this child? So we are going back to gatekeeping mechanisms. So the role of the community is let them be gatekeepers. Ensure that only under very circumstances, children lose that protection. The faith-based organizations, we are relying on them as the advocates of the children matters. They reach a great number. Assume that if one of the Sundays, they just say that today we are going to preach about raising the child within the community. So we are relying on them as our advocates on matters of children. The state will take the center stage in terms of leading and supporting the 3 pillars. But each one of us, including you, Vivian, including KBC, has a role in educating the public on matters of child care. So each one of us, there is nobody who can say I don't have a role. No, we have a role. We just need to know, how do I do my role? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The role of the state.
The role of the state, I've said, is to take lead, to coordinate the programs, to bring actors together and to provide the necessary support mechanisms, and even creating enabling environment for the implementation of this. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's finish up with the milestones this far, since the implementation or since the launching of this reform in 2022, right?
Yeah.
To date, what are some of the milestones that you would say
A very
you've
big
achieved?
milestone. The first milestone is that there is change in terms of adopting the care reform. We have moved from the resistance, and a number of people, including the donors, and I writing to the council, approaching the council, how we have understood it, we want now to engage in it. That's a milestone. 2, we have seen a number of children already going to the institution. And remember, in terms of care reform implementation journey, it's supposed to be a 3-phased. So we have just concluded the first phase. And the first phase was to do what? Advocacy, enlightening the public so that we have demonstrating and also having systems on work. But within that phase, I'm happy to report that a number of institutions have also completely transitioned. I've said that the number has moved. Actually, it was 47 to 45. We are now at 43 something. So that tells you we are moving ahead.
That's in 3 years.
Yes, and we are now moving now to the real, now from 2026 to 2029. That is now the real implementation phase. And then now the last phase will just be now review and all that. So that by 2032, we'll again come and evaluate ourselves. We were having 45,000. How many have we integrated? How many have we found them alternative family care? And what is the problem that is still remaining? So as I can say, the progress is so good because we have also done some legislative changes. Remember, I told you that it has to start with the systems. The system has changed. Now we are going now to the children, reintegrating. So even today, we have a number of people outside there, every county, prospective foster carers who are just waiting so that if you get an abandoned child, you just tell them, I say, I'm ready for this child.
All right. Yeah. We're living in a digital era.
Yes.
That is, you know, we can't dispute that. And this also brings about many things, and this also may expose children to different vices, you know, including, you know, online abuse, exploitation of the children and trafficking and all of that. How are we addressing this matter?
One of the reasons as to why we reviewed the Children Act was to address the emerging issues. And one of the emerging issues was issues of online child protection. In 2001, how many children were accessing computers and phones? They were not there. But today, we have a child who cannot hold a pen and write, but can easily navigate a phone. So cognizant of the aspect that online child protection was a concern, the government, and even through the Directorate of Children Services, as a whole section that deals with online child protection. The DCI as a whole section that deals with online child protection and counter-trafficking. So we are also cognizant of this, and a number of measures working together with ICTA, the Communications Authority. Recently you saw that they launched the Child Online Safety. Just to have as a guideline on how to handle matters of children and ensure that our children are safe. But for this to succeed, it starts with the caregivers. How safe is your child without your phone? So it's again coming to building the capacity of caregivers to ensure that when the children use these online gadgets, they are also safe. And they have also controls and measures on what their children navigates to those phones and those computers. So on-child safety is an emerging issue, and we are confronting it head-on, and we are moving together.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy Owino, for joining us for this conversation. Maybe if I may allow you to give us your final remarks in just a minute, in less than a minute.
Thank you, Vivian. My final remarks is a clarion call to all that are listening, that our children is our future. If we want to destroy the future of this country, it's very simple. Let us destroy our children. So we need all of us to be on board on matters of children, to protect our children, and to realize that we have a key role that we must play. Whether you are a government, whether you are an state actor, whether you are a caregiver, whether you are an institutional of care. And when we play this role together, we shall have a future that we'll be proud to live in as a country and say, this is the country that we made some 20 years back, some 10 years back. Until and unless our children are safe, our future.
Best way to end it. Mr. Kennedy Owino, who's the Principal Children Officer at National Council of Children Services, Kenya. And this is where we end this conversation, but don't you go too far. Good Morning Kenya gets to continue. Mike Megwe will be back in a moment with a different conversation, so stay with us.
They say the earth without art would just be get it? We circumnavigate the globe and traverse the local scene to bring you art and culture at their very best. From fine art, culinary art, performing arts, and even cultural events, you name it, and we have got you covered. My name is Kevin Kasioki, and I will be serving you this and much, much more each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
The men and women in boots. Their core mandate to defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. Their bravery knows no limits.
Make a man go through the wall without breaking the wall. Laziness, it is not in our vocabulary.
But what are their stories, their tales? Military Tales, every Saturday at 9 p.m. with Ben Troy Njoe.
You're well within the third hour of Good Morning Kenya. Welcome to this segment. My name is Mike Migwe. This is the Viewpoint, and we get into yet another conversation regarding. We just want to unpack the human cost of land disputes and evictions. What is that cost, given that we had recent evictions in Ngong Forest, and does it bring forth issues to do with historical issues surrounding land rights, evictions, and what are the rights of evictees? What does the law say about them? And in studio, I'm joined by Nashon Okoa, who is the director, Beacon Africa Consultants, and also the immediate former chair, Association of Construction Managers of Kenya. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike.
How are you doing this morning?
Well, it's a beautiful morning, we thank God.
Yes.
A lot of things going on, but we are healthy, we are alive.
Indeed.
We're grateful.
Indeed.
Yes.
Now, when we talk about human cost of land disputes and eviction, what is the real cost of this, especially within Kenya?
I think it's historical. A big part of evictions is quite historical. Yeah. If you look at that perspective, if you look at, for example, the coastal areas, there's a lot of land issues that are quite historical. You have a lot of squatters in those land areas. One of the key reasons is because I think after independence, there are a lot of issues that we never addressed as a country. So you'll find there's a few individuals hold large chunks of land, and you find majority of people are still squattering. So I would say a major part of our land disputes. You saw the Narok issue, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. A few people unfortunately got killed. A big part of our land disputes, especially on these eviction areas, is historical. But also, I think urbanization is playing a role. If you look at the town areas. Because we have one of the highest urbanization rates in the continent. Yes. I think at about 4.3%. Yes. And we are urbanizing at a rate that is not commensurate to our developments. So you'll find a lot of people are coming to the major cities. They don't have nowhere to stay, so they begin to go into empty lands, empty in quotes, and then over time the owners come into eviction issues. Yes.
There's also the issue of where that sometimes you get people who have lived in a certain area, they have even title deeds, but then again the land is grabbed. Then all of a sudden they have to be evicted. So that begs the question, what are the rights of any person who is getting evicted from a certain parcel of land?
I think the rights of evictees are basically the rights prescribed in our constitution. And most of the times, even those that have court orders, you realize the court spells out what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Most of the times you'll find there are notices to be given, supposed to give an ample time to leave those pieces of land. But sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes you'll find the notice was given, because as Kenyans, we rarely admit there was a notice given on evictions.
Yeah.
So that's also a major problem. But we find notices are served. At some instances, we've seen unfortunate incidences where notices are very short. Someone has lived somewhere for 5 years. You're giving them 1 month to leave. I mean, there needs to be really ample time. I think it needs to be done in a humane way. It's one of the most criticism of last year when you had the issues of Minister of Interior doing demolitions around Nairobi River. One of the big issues was the manner in which they were carried out. I think it needs to be done humanely. The rights of properties, the rights of people to probably remove their things from houses needs to be well protected, so that we do it with dignity. We give these people some dignity of evicting them. Major issue in our past evictions, we talk about the Ruiru demolitions, evictions, it's done in a really humane way. There are the river houses, people are wailing while their houses are being demolished. That is one of the major issues that, for me, we've lost the human side of how we do our evictions. Of course, there are rights, and most of the time they're spelled out in even court orders that give these people the right to evict. But the humanity part of it, I don't think the courts can go as far as prescribing our humanity. We've lost the humanity part of it. You know, probably I'll be given 1 month to evict you, but I can still extend 2 months to you, so that it is 3 months in total, because of my humanity. We've lost that part of that side of our evictions.
So that is mostly on how, say, that court order is implemented.
Yes.
Now, you know, prior to 2010 Constitution, Kenya didn't have such strong guidelines on how people could be evicted from parcels of land. But post 2010 Constitution, and now talking about Land Laws Amendment Act of 2016, do you think it has had any impact in terms of how evictions are carried out in the country?
Look, I think it does, and you know, one of our major issues as a country, I don't think it's always our lack of regulations and laws that prescribe these things. We have some of the elaborate land laws. For me, is implementation of these laws. There's a lot that is spelled out in the Revised Lands Act, but a lot of the times it's around a lot of animosity around evictions, because no one does evictions for smiling, unfortunately. Evictions are done when there's a lot of acrimony, probably a very protracted legal battle has happened, swords have been drawn. So at the point of you get the order, you realize there's a rush, because again, people have this issue of, you're going to appeal, stop it before I evict you, so I want to evict you as soon as possible before you get an injunction, go to appeal and all those things. So I want to get you, by the time you go to the next step of appeal, you're out. So there's always this constant rush that even supersedes what presumably is provided for humanly under these orders and acts.
Is it that, well, why does it seem that poor communities are more susceptible to evictions?
I think it's obvious. I think it's because they don't have, as I said, a lot of the poor communities have the land injustice challenge. If you look at it historically, a lot of our poor communities do not own pieces of land. The top tier of our society own the big chunk. So you'll find most of the poor communities are the squatters. They're the people that will squat on pieces of land. Even in the city, you don't hear demolitions in Lavington. You hear them in the slum areas, in the poor neighborhoods of our city, and even in our villages. It's really the poor, because on that level there's the poor. So, and it's because, as I said, it's historical. We've not addressed the issue of we are 50 million Kenyans, and everyone needs to have a piece of this land called Kenya. So there are people that really have so much, and there are people that really do not have. Now, we are growing. We are a third world country that is really has one of the highest population growth rates. So our population is increasing. It means we are putting pressure on every resource, including land. So when a family that's grown to 5, they need somewhere to build. And if you bring in the issue of culture, So I have 5 sons. They also need to build their homes. Where are they going to build? So you'll begin to have the squatter entering lands that are empty, because you also want to fulfill some of these cultural issues. And at that level, the eviction should come. So for me, the poor will continue to face it because we will not address the issue of the really vulnerable society having a piece of this cake called land. Yeah.
Then from that perspective now, and looking at land reforms within the country, can we say it's driven by justice, conservation, or just profit?
Largely, it's self-interest. You know, it's one of our biggest issues. Of a lot of our legislations are reforms. Legislations are driven towards some interest, some self-serving interest. There are instances where there's been a lot of there's been push to have legislations that are really public geared, but most of the times, I mean, history is replete with examples in our country where we pushed agendas, reforms, and all those things. When you want to reform the IBC, I mean, there's always agendas around who needs to take the cake and what, all those things. But look, we are not where we used to be. The truth is, our land reform systems has grown. We have issues of al disaster. So there's an attempt to also just better the system and the process. But the truth is, a lot still needs to be done. And for me, it needs to be done around the most vulnerable of society. So how do we begin to cushion them against this? In my view, if we don't address it, evictions are going to augment. Because, as I said, we are growing. We're putting pressure on a lot of our resources, including land, because our population is really growing at a fast rate. And we are urbanizing at a very fast rate. So we need to have a system of how do we cushion the people coming to the city that can't afford any structure and need support, and the vulnerable in our communities that really require land. Yes.
You know, we talk about these things, but then again, this is a recurring problem. Why do we still have it, yet there are legal safeguards?
Well, Mike, we have a lot of legal safeguards on really everything in this country, but we disregard them. I mean, over the last week we have debated the whole country about the unfortunate death of Mr. Albert. There's a very elaborate system of how someone needs to be treated when they're arrested. Did you follow it? We don't. We disregard every single beautiful legislations, acts that are prescribed. We don't care about them. So yes, there are acts, there are regulations, policies around how eviction needs to happen. The thing is, we don't follow them. We are a country that we really see some of these things as inconveniences. Especially if you're the top tier, it's a real inconvenience. So you fight as much as possible to remove the inconvenience. And that is why they're still reoccurring. So personally, I think we need to have some very radical thoughts around it. Because as I said, if we don't address it, and I do not think the issue is the law, I think the issue is the implementations of it. So if you don't have people that have the emotional fortitude to begin seeing, Mike, you're going to evict these people. If you don't follow the law, we're going to charge you. Then inhumane evictions we've seen. What happened? Nothing. People have been clobbered, people have been evicted at night. Who has been taken to court to be told, look, you had an order, you didn't follow the order. Or you evicted people inhumanely. As long as there's no one taking responsibility, these things are going to continue recurring. And at a regular rate, because we are growing, population is growing, we are not going to expand our boundaries in terms of land, and most of us want to come to the cities.
You know, all this points to human dignity, but then again, in the face of law, can eviction be legal but unjust?
I think so. You know, there's legality and morality, and I think morality borders on injustice, in my view. There's what can be legal but it's not moral. As I said, one of the things we've lost as a people is our humanity. So, yes, I've gotten an order of evict people within 1 month, give 1 month notice. But how do I carry it within the societal morals Because if you step back historically, there were a lot of guidelines on how humans, how we lived as a people, as a community. And there's a lot of societal pressure on you conform to certain aspects of humanity. We lived as a society.
Yeah.
I think we lost a big part of that. Because even in the absence of, let's say, a regulation of how eviction needs to happen, I think the basic human decency of how it needs to happen is something we should be all inborn with. We need to be born and bred with the human care of the person has lived here for 5 years. The most decent thing to do and just thing to do is give them 5 months, 6 months, and then they begin to live. But we want to do it at night. I have an order today. I want to do it at night. You leave tomorrow. I don't care what happened to your things. So what law is going to prescribe that? I think that is a key component of how permissive society has been and how we have a lot of moral decay today in our society. It plays a part. Well, that cannot be prescribed in law, but it's one of the reasons why we are seeing these inhumane evictions that you can't watch twice on television. Yeah.
Even as we talk about that, there's an aspect of balancing conservation, human rights, and the aspect of development, because we are a growing country. How do we strike a balance in all the three?
I think we need to zone. We need to properly zone our major cities. It's one of the big issues we've been pushing in Nairobi County as well. Because outside Nairobi County, there's no, all the major counties, at least Nairobi County is a semblance of zoning.
Yes.
Okay, it's outdated, but it's probably the only county that's a semblance of zoning. You see, once we zone our country, so we know where does human development stop, where are our parks, where are our forests. Because if you do not have a zoning, a prescribed zoning regulations, for example, in Nairobi City, you'll find the issues of gong encroachments is coming up, okay? Because there is no proper zoning regulations. The one we have in Nairobi, I think, it's the colonial one. It will tell you that Kireresho is still ground plus 3. But when you zone a city, zone the metros of Nairobi properly, we define our forests, and this zoning should be carried out not in boardrooms, not in the county assembly only. The whole metro participate in the zoning. So we define where are our forests, okay? Where are our play areas? Which areas do we want to conserve? Which areas do we want to develop? Where are our rivers? Where are our water aquifers? And every single county begin to do this conscious zoning of all counties. And it's done in particular with the county residents. So that once we do that, then it's a very clear, elaborate. No one should step on our parks. No one should encroach our forests. And these forests are very marked for people to know because we've been part of it. It is lacking. And I say population is growing, we are urbanizing, and we are urbanizing in the absence of a clearly defined cities and towns. It's a major problem. So people, because there's population pressure and urbanization pressure, the only lands available becomes the parks, the forests, and all these things. So there's that pressure to push this population into these areas until we zone consciously. And I mean zoning together with the residents. Because there's been attempts where residents were left out and court stops those kind of things. Let us zone together with each county, do it consciously with the residents. I've always said, if we need to get the best minds, if we don't have them here, I think we do, but in case we don't have them, bring in the best minds to help us zone our major towns, our counties. Then we begin to clearly define where does human settlement needs to end, and look at it in terms of future expansions, future growth, future urbanization pressure, what can we allow, where are our forests, where are our play areas. We'll have a beautiful country.
How do we sensitize people now to these aspects, to know how to go about it? Who makes the first move?
No, I do not think that the people we have at the helm of our counties do not know this. I think it is self-serving to have the chaos. Honestly, I think it's self-serving to. We go outside this country to develop countries, and you'll hear leaders say, "Wow, beautiful cities, organized." I mean, they see them every day. It's not that they're not aware of what it takes to organize a city. But the chaos we have, it's self-serving. Because then it's a bloodline of where I need to develop. So when it's a bloodline of where human settlement needs to stop, then it brings some self-interest to people.
Yes.
But I do not think that the people we have at the helm of our counties, for instance, are not aware of the benefit of zoning. What I think we need to do, the first step for me is, as a people, as residents, and we say this in Nairobi, we need to push pressure on our leaders that we require 21st century zoning regulations that is in tandem with the population, in tandem with the 21st century complexities of cities, in tandem with what we are facing. We faced floods last year.
Yes.
A lot of it. And we forgot about it. We're waiting for the next floods. What have we done over the last 1 year to mitigate the flood effects? Nothing. In fact, for me, I think we have worsened. So unless we put pressure as a people and residents of this country to demand that we need to zone, I don't think it's going to happen, because the chaos is not by chance. The chaos is very deliberate.
Is zoning the way out?
For major cities, number 1, 2, 3, for what we are facing, number 1 is zoning, number 2 is zoning, number 3 is zoning.
What about in the rural areas?
Even rural. Because if you look at, as I said, if even the towns where you come from, okay? Look at the towns where you come from. There is a lot of pressure even to cut land into pieces and sell. We're not going even for bad.
Towns are popping up.
Exactly. And we're cutting them into small pieces.
Yeah.
When you zone areas, then you begin to say, this area, you can only sell land in 2 acres. Okay? As long as you live in that area, this is 2-acre land. We had some issues when Governor Kabogo came in Kiambu, because I think when he came, he stopped the 8th and 16th subdivision of land.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was a big problem. But you see, it was abrupt. And when he left, we went back to cutting all the coffee plantations into 8th and 16th. Okay? So it points to lack of clear regulations that any governor that comes in, you know very well, if I come from a rural area, this is a coffee area, you can only sell land in 10 acres. Zoning for me is the center of it. If you don't have a clear policy, even in areas of this is our agriculture, because I see a point when we were going to cut all our pieces of land to quarters, or 8, even deep in the villages, because if you look at our towns, and with a third world country, there's pressure for towns to grow. And with the advent of counties, a lot of resources, we're getting a lot of county townships, and World Bank putting a lot of money in townships. Where I come from, this town is now a township with a county manager, and there's that pressure to cut land into small pieces and sell. Zoning will help us so that we zone these areas. You can do that. These areas you cannot do that. This is our area of farming. You can't sell land below 10 acres and below. We don't have those kind of things. And if you don't have those kind of things, you're going to have problems.
And all that has to come from a point of knowledge. People have to be sensitized about it.
Yeah. And that's why I said, when you begin a debate, for example, in Nairobi, let's say we begin a debate on you want to zone the city. You want to make it 2025 new zoning regulations.
Yes.
The city will participate. Every part, and we take our time. No, there's always a hurry with public participation. It's so much in a hurry. Let us go around and ask people, what do we want to do with the city? Do we want people to enter Uhuru Park, for example? Where are our parks? Because there's pressure on our parks now and our forests. How long are we going to fight these things? Okay? Can we, for example, I've always said, can we start expanding on how far should Nairobi go outside?
Exactly.
Because if we don't define Nairobi to go outside, these forests are under threat. As I said, the continent itself, I think the World Bank says the African cities are receiving 40,000 people every day. We are 4.4. It's one of the highest urbanization rates in the continent. A lot of people are coming to the city every single year. We don't have a plan of how we're going to house them. With time, with the pressure, we'll find them building in Karura. I'm telling you. And there'll be so many that nothing going to do about it. But if we start thinking about it now and have that conversation with residents of the city, how do we expand? Where do we go? Can we go, the president mentioned going 75 floors at some point. It probably could be a way at some point that we need to go so high, but can we change it? How high should we go? 50 floors, 70 floors? And we zone areas where this area now you can go 70 floors. So begin to take care of people that are coming into the city. Otherwise, we're going to start having people still going to the areas they're supposed to go, and eviction will come in. But right now, we don't have that defined. What is upper hill height? Is it 40 floors? Is it 50? Because we need to go, countries have gone that vertical so that you handle the pressure that is coming in. We don't have that kind of thought. It's in the minds of a few people, and they decide when you apply.
Yes.
But when you zone it properly, we begin to take care of this issue. Because the main issue of evictions, for example, in the cities and major areas of towns, is because people are coming in and they don't have a place to stay.
So we still have a chance to course correct. Speaking of what you're saying about zoning, going vertical, we still have that chance to course correct.
I think we do. I personally had said that 2022 we really needed a built environment governor, and it's because of these issues.
Yes.
Someone with a conscious mind of our built environment. Because if you're a student of this sector, and if you're a student of how we are urbanizing, then you know very well our infrastructure is at a risk. And that's why we're having these unprecedented floods, traffic jams in areas that could not be thought of having traffic jams, water rationing and sewer burst in sub-prime areas of this city. It's pointing you towards, telling you that there's a pressure, a real pressure on our infrastructure and our resources. Now, it's not late yet, okay? It's not late. We are running out of time, but it's not late. We need to course correct as soon as possible. Probably before the next election. Let's have conversations of how do we handle this pressure? Because the thing is, the sun will rise today and end, there are a number of people that have come to Nairobi for the first time. Today.
Yes.
There will be. Yes. And tomorrow. The rate does not care whether you have someone who's not thinking about these things. People are still coming to the urban areas. And people are still putting pressure on not just urban areas like Nairobi. Every single town is having pressure.
Yes.
So we need to have consciously people who can start thinking about this area. And look, you asked me where it starts. It's leadership. It's at the top. Okay? We in this sector will continue pointing them and say, look, this is coming. But we don't have the resources to start the conversation. It has to start at the top. For example, the governor of who sits at CTO. Can we have that conversation of how do we deal with this? And then bring experts in, bring residents in. Then we have a plan where, look, guys, this is agreeable for us. This is how we're going to move going forward.
When it comes to evictions, we've seen evictions in Mau, in Gong Forest, and even in informal settlements within cities. But in terms of how we handle them, where have we fallen short? Do we really give them the right support, or we just do it to get them out of the way?
I think in most instances, the ones I have witnessed, it's a question of, as long as they get you out of the gate, how you move from there onwards, it's your business. Look at the river evictions.
Yes.
I think it was one of the most inhumane as well. I don't think there's that support, and probably it's a conversation we need to have. What really needs to happen when we are evicting, okay? And once we have experienced one, I think we need to have robust discussions around it. It's the same thing like what we did in the Mombasa demolitions. The house, remember the building in Mombasa?
Yes.
You know, I think that point, we've not clearly thought through of a procedure of demolishing a building. But with that now, I think also we need to have a procedure of how we need to demolish. Same as evictions.
Yes.
Do we compensate? Who can be compensated? Okay. Then how long? Is it 1 year, 2 years? What support? Can Red Cross get involved? How? Okay. What follow-up do we need? Who is capable of being reimbursed, for instance? How do you treat the children? Because there are very innocent lives there. How they handled? Do we give some support for based on number of children? So yes, I still think there is that discussion we need to have. But I know primarily one of the main issues of evictions is we are always in a hurry.
Yes. We
are always in a hurry, and mostly because we fear the next injunction coming in.
When it comes to title deeds, issuing title deeds, in informal settlement, would that be a priority, and would it really deal with the aspect of forced evictions and ensure that people live without fear of being told to come, leave, and go wherever?
You see, Mike, in serious democracies, the debate on the legality or illegality of anything will cease with a signature of a government official. In serious countries, when you see a signature of a government official, you know the debate on that land, whatever it is, the debate of that document's legality or illegality ceases. It's not in our country. It's not in our country. And that is one of our many issues. That even when I see a title with a government official signature, the debates of that title's legality and illegality will still continue. And I do not think the obvious solution is title. It's one of the solutions because we have learned that people have a lot of titles. I'm always reminded that there's someone who has title of JKA Runway. Okay? Okay? So there are a lot of titles in this land.
You can decide to reclaim the land.
Yeah, you can decide to reclaim the land. There are a lot of titles in this land. For me, on the issues of evictions, I think nature is speaking to us. Nature is whispering. Actually, on major cities, nature is whispering to us that we need to have a conscious decision of how do we handle people coming in. It doesn't matter. If we do not have a plan of handling people who are coming into this city, because we are growing, even your land that you empty somewhere, people will go and build on it with that title. They will go build on it because they have come to the city and they want somewhere to stay. So they will build on it. So the issue is not the title. The issue is, if you look at the cause and effect, what is causing evictions? For me, we should address the causes of evictions. What is causing evictions? Why are people building along riparian reserves, along rivers? It's because there's nowhere else we want to build. Have we thought through that there are a lot of people still coming every single day, and whether you demolish like we did last year, if you go check, they've started building. Because there's nowhere else to build. So can we address the causes? And one of the causes is we need to have a plan of how we're going to, either we stop people from coming to the city, put roadblocks all over, which is not possible. But as long as you're going to have people coming into these towns, as long as you're going to have people in the villages who are growing culturally and need to have families that also need to build, we're going to have pressure on people entering other people's lands and building on them.
Do we need policy enhancement to ensure that there is easy access to land, whether you want to buy a piece of land?
I think so. I think, as I said, I think it's one of the debates we need to robustly have because there's large chunks of land across this country that has been handled since I was born. Okay? And you have some people in the rural areas that lives like they're in the dire need of slums. Is it something that in 25 years in this century we want to have as a country? I don't think so. So either the government begins to buy part of these pieces of land deliberately and give it to the most vulnerable. I think that would be the most ideal. So can we buy part of this piece? So say I have 10,000 acres. Can government take 1,000, not force, but purchase, and then begin to give it to people? That is what is going to work for us, so that we address the most vulnerable of our society. For me, I think it's just a time bomb. And I don't know how long we're going to have these running battles of people fighting that we've lived here for 20 years and you can't evict us.
Thank you so much for making time to come on, talk about this very emotive issue. When it comes to land and eviction, it's a very emotive issue. Thank you for making time. That is Nation Okowa, who is the director, Beacon Africa Consultants, and also immediate former chair, Association of Construction Managers of Kenya. This is where we wrap this conversation. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe.
Nineteen nations will compete in the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania 2024, which will be staged from 2nd to 30th August 2025. Amongst the 4 groups in the tournament A to D, Kenya is pooled in Group A, together with Morocco, Angola, DR Congo and Zambia.
Algeria from the set piece, the header is on target, but it's...
This unique competition featuring the best locally based players from across the continent definitely has something for everyone. Just bring your A game as you let it flow live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Mtu mwisho nimeua mtu kweli?
Haujaua.
Alafu basi nipeleke pole pole. Wote niongee na huyu. Lakini unapatanga advertisement, si ndio?
Sasa advertisement ikitokea kama haoni atajuaje?
Please, I'm not asking you. Why do you vacuum people in the stomach? Which? The English now is coming out. 50,000 pocket money. Mtoto ende tiari.
Hiyo ni kama si ni change kidogo, pesa kidogo ambayo inaweza.
Umesikia market that point.
I'm Jill, Ruth's sister.
Hope she's not the crazy type.
Sorry?
Kids hapa boss. Hii ni kampuni kubwa sana na tuuzi mandazi.
Shiro?
Your feelings, you need to stop it, okay?
But I can't help myself.
You are looking for the right thing at the wrong place, in the wrong person, okay?
Just have to work your way up. As long as unafuata kenye nakwambia.
Ulikuwa unataka nianzie wapi?
I'm John and Shiro na Maraiga. What? You guys let her outside by herself?
Kulingana na vile nimepanga, kila kitu itakuwa sawa.
How do we get rid of my uncle Mark? Like completely, yani tumtoko picture mbaya.
But what's your point?
My point is unabehave ni kama una bwana.
Because I don't have one. Your one sorry excuse of a man. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Wewe ndio wazimu.
Kulingana na Dr. Mutua, anasema Mark ako na ugonjwa wa akili.
Uko ready kufanya anything unachotaka as long as we get to be a family again.
We can make a deal, Mama Felix.
What deal?
Nafahamu uasis ama uanzilishaji wa sunna hii ya kuchinja katika tarehe 10 ya Dhulhijja. Walipokuwa tayari kumchinja mwanaye, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aliteremsha kondoo kutoka mbinguni na kumwamuru Nabii Ibrahim kumchinja kondoo yule.
Kuwa na tabia nzuri aliyokuwa nayo Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallama, ili uwe mwenye kupendwa na Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallama na uwe karibu yake siku ya kiyama.
Laka wal mulk la sharika lak.
Kila mwaka mamilioni ya Waislamu kutoka kila kona ya dunia hukusanyika katika ardhi tukufu ya Maka.
The lead of the majority party, and this procedural motion seeks to have the National Assembly resolve to exempt the business, appearing as order numbers 11, 10 and 12. In today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Orders number 40, subsection 3, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for the business not sponsored by the majority or the minority of business sponsored by the committee. So this motion is a motion that will be seeking to have the House consider business under number 10, 11 and 12 being businesses sponsored by the leader of the majority party, minority, or sponsored by the committee. Usually, the House on Wednesday morning considers bills and motions by members. So this procedural motion will be seeking to have the House consider business away from the normal business of the House on Wednesday morning. The House will this morning also consider the Agriculture and Livestock Extension Services Bill. This is a bill from the Senate, Bill number 12 of the year 2022, At the National Assembly, we have Honorable John Mutunga co-sponsoring the bill coming from the Senate. From the Senate, this bill is being sponsored by Honorable Tabitha Mutinda, and it is a bill that seeks to provide for a policy and institutional framework within which the agricultural and the livestock industry operates, by, among others, establishing the Agricultural and Livestock Extension Service, which will be managed by the Board of Directors. Agriculture is the backbone of the economy, and so majority of Kenyans depend on the agriculture either directly or by feeding their families or through trading of agricultural and livestock commodities, as well as generating an income. And according to the sponsors of the bill, unfortunately, over the years, the returns have been dwindling. This is due to mainly poor performance of both crops and livestock, which can be attributed to matters climate change, poor production method, pest, and diseases, among others. According to the sponsors of the bill, they indicate in the bill that it is therefore genuine. There is a genuine need to set up a policy and institutional framework to support and guide the activities, operations, as well as interactions within the industry. And this is with the aim of growing the industry with the result of a strengthened agricultural economy for the various counties across the country. This is a bill by Senator Tabitha Mutinda from the Senate and the National Assembly. At the National Assembly, this is being co-sponsored by Honorable John Mutunga. And the debate on the Agriculture and Livestock Extension Service Bill is already concluded upon, and what remains is for a question to be put for members to vote